Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo! Hey. Yeah.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Well, it looks like things are starting to get real serious right now, guys. At least when it comes to the truth, Errol Spence, because he just made it official that he wants Canelo Alvarez after the Sean Porter fight. In fact, he said he's going to whoop Canelo's ass after the Sean Porter fight. Let me go ahead and quote exactly what he had to say. Quote, "I'll beat Canelo's ass. After I fight Sean Porter, I'm going to try to fight Canelo. I'm going to call Oscar's bluff." End quote. Now, for those of you guys who don't know the whole story, Oscar De La Hoya, he's the one that first started talking about putting Canelo up against Errol Spence after he's seen Errol Spence dominate Mikey Garcia. Now, the fact that Canelo Alvarez is known to blow up all the way to 180 pounds the night of a fight, a lot of people obviously felt that would be too much of a disadvantage for Errol Spence getting in the ring with him. And I don't think too many people thought that Errol Spence would take this challenge serious. But now we know that Errol Spence is up for the challenge, and he's already saying that he's gonna beat Canelo Alvarez's ass. And of course, Errol Spence, he has to get past Sean Porter first, which I think the majority of us assume he will most likely beat Sean Porter. One thing I will say about the Sean Porter fight, if Errol Spence can knock out Sean Porter, that would be extremely impressive. Once again, knocking out a fighter who's never been knocked out before, especially a durable fighter like Sean Porter. That would be a hell of a statement if Errol Spence can knock out Sean Porter. Now, going into the Canelo fight, if that fight can actually come to fruition, there's no doubt about it, Errol Spence is going to be the underdog in that fight. But I don't know how much of an underdog he deserves to be in that fight. I mean, I can understand Canelo Alvarez being the favorite, but I see that as a very, very competitive fight. I mean, we have to remember the small guys that Canelo Alvarez has been in the ring with, they actually gave him problems. Let's not forget, the only guy he lost to was a guy that he outweighed almost by 20 pounds. Canelo Alvarez was 15 to 20 pounds bigger than Floyd Mayweather when he fought him. And he was almost 15 years younger than Floyd Mayweather when he fought him. So once again, when you hear these Canelo fans trying to make excuses for Canelo Alvarez being too young, what about the excuse for Floyd Mayweather being too old? Floyd Mayweather was closer to 40 than he was to 30 years old when he fought him. And once again, he was 15 to 20 pounds smaller. Now you have someone like Errol Spence, who's not going to be close to 40. He's going to actually be much taller, or I wouldn't say much taller, but he'll be taller than Canelo Alvarez, and he will be closer to Canelo Alvarez's age. On top of all of that, he's a southpaw. Once again, for the Canelo Alvarez fans that love trying to make themselves feel better about their fighter losing by trying to use these excuses that make no sense, saying, oh, well, you know, Canelo was only 23 years old, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to ask this question again. I want you guys to just close your eyes for a second and think about this scenario. Let's completely reverse the roles. Imagine if everything was the other way around. We're going to play trading places. Imagine if it was Floyd Mayweather that was 23 or even 22, right? Imagine it was Floyd Mayweather that was at his natural weight class and he was at a higher weight class than a Canelo Alvarez, an aging Canelo Alvarez that had already moved up 5 weight classes, and he's 37 years old. Now imagine fight night comes and Floyd Mayweather, who's already naturally bigger than the smaller Canelo Alvarez, Floyd Mayweather rehydrates and he's 15 to 20 pounds bigger than Canelo Alvarez. Who would be favored going into that fight? Clearly the favorite would be Floyd Mayweather, right? Matter of fact, not only would Floyd Mayweather be the favorite, but it would be considered a cherry pick if Floyd Mayweather were to fight a guy that was much older and much smaller than him, right? But don't just take my word for it. All you have to do is revisit the Mayweather versus Marquez fight. What did they say when Floyd Mayweather fought against Marquez? They said Marquez was too small. This is what the Marquez Canelo fans said, right? But then when Floyd Mayweather was in the same role as Marquez was in, then all of a sudden, they make excuses for the bigger guy losing, which was Canelo Alvarez. You guys see how the double standards work? You can't win for losing. If a fighter on the coincidental list is the fighter that's much smaller, they'll still make excuses for why he won. If that fighter on the coincidental list is much older, they'll still make excuses for why that guy won and why their guy lost. But once again, going back to that scenario, if it was Floyd Mayweather that was naturally bigger, at his natural weight class, fighting against a fighter, smaller guy coming up in weight, and he was way younger than Canelo Alvarez on top of that, if the scenario played out that way, not only would Floyd Mayweather beat him more decisively, but Floyd probably would even stop him. Because people have to realize, when Floyd Mayweather was fighting at his natural weight class, he was actually stopping a lot of the top fighters, a lot of the top champions, some undefeated champions, from Diego Corrales to Gennaro Hernandez to Angel Manfredi. Floyd Mayweather, he stopped all of those guys. And a real funny thing about the Canelo Alvarez fans, of course, trying to make these excuses to make themselves feel better for their guy losing, what's really crazy about that is I went back and I've watched that fight. I've watched the Mayweather-Canelo fight tons of times. And what you'll notice if you guys go back and watch that fight is Canelo, he did everything he was supposed to do. But Floyd Mayweather put on a flawless performance where he made zero mistakes. Now, don't get me wrong, what I learned watching that Canelo versus Mayweather fight is you have to definitely be a special fighter to beat Canelo Alvarez, at least do it with ease. Because there were punches that Canelo Alvarez was throwing at Floyd Mayweather that was just barely missing him. I mean, as crazy as this may sound, even though Canelo lost almost every single round, that was actually one of Canelo's best performances, losing to Floyd Mayweather. Around the 6th round, Canelo Alvarez, he completely picked up the pace and he started putting tremendous pressure on Floyd Mayweather to no avail, because once again, Floyd Mayweather's reflexes and his defense was impeccable, which is why it's definitely going to take a special fighter once again to beat Alvarez the way Floyd Mayweather did, especially if you're going to move up 2 weight classes. And understand this, guys, if Errol Spence fights Canelo, he really will be moving up 2 weight classes. It won't be like Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence, because Mikey Garcia, he had already fought at 140, so really he was moving up 1 weight class. But this will be a little bit different because Errol has never fought at 154 before. Moving up 2 weight classes and fighting against a Canelo Alvarez, that is a hell of a task to beat him. Because I can tell you guys right now, Canelo Alvarez, he's the type of fighter that fights with way more confidence when he knows he's in the ring with a much smaller guy. Case in point, Miguel Cotto. When Canelo Alvarez, when he fought against Cotto, I believe Canelo even said he felt like he could just walk through his punches because he was just too small. Because if you guys remember, when Canelo fought against Cotto, he looked like he was about 180 pounds the night of the fight. I mean, he was just way bigger than Cotto. And Cotto and Freddie Roach, they talked about it afterwards. They could not believe how big Cotto was in that fight. And matter of fact, I remember even Amir Khan, he said after the fight, he said, man, it was like I was hitting him and he was just walking through the punches like the punches weren't even phasing him. And that's exactly what it looked like. That's exactly what it looked like. Matter of fact, speaking of Amir Khan, he's the last fighter to move up 2 weight classes to fight against Canelo Alvarez. And we all know that Amir Khan was actually outboxing Canelo Alvarez for the first, 5 rounds until he got caught with that shot and he got knocked out. Now, credit to Canelo Alvarez. Canelo did start closing the gap. You know, he started getting a little bit closer to Amir Khan to get in position to even land that knockout shot. But there's no doubt about it. We can't overlook the fact that Khan was actually outboxing Canelo Alvarez. And if Khan can outbox Canelo Alvarez, we know Errol Spence can outbox him. I mean, Errol Spence, he outboxed Mikey Garcia. And that was supposed to be Mikey Garcia's advantage. That was supposed to be his best strength. Mikey kept telling us before the fight, you know, I'm a better boxer than him. And a lot of people were thinking that. A lot of people were buying that. A lot of people were thinking that Errol Spence, and I don't know how some fans thought this, but a lot of fans were thinking Errol Spence was just some flat-footed brawler. But once again, that's what happens when you're on that coincidental list, because they never looked at Golovkin as some one-dimensional brawler. But when it came to Errol Spence fighting aggressive and knocking cats out, now all of a sudden he's a flawed fighter that only has one gear. And Errol Spence, he showed the whole boxing world that that wasn't the case, because he actually beat Mikey Garcia at his own game. So once again, if Errol Spence, and I'm only talking about outboxing right now, once again, if Errol could do that to Mikey Garcia, and we've seen what Amir Khan was able to do to Canelo Alvarez, there's no doubt about it. Even if Canelo were to catch Errol Spence, and let's just say he were to knock him out with a shot, there's no doubt about it, Errol Spence is going to be winning rounds. No matter how the fight turns out, Errol Spence is going to be winning rounds in that fight. It's going to be competitive. Now, the advantage that Canelo has is, once again, his size. He's going to have a lot of power. And the thing is, when it comes to Errol Spence, he can't make too many mistakes in the fight. When it comes to Canelo Alvarez, he can get away with making some mistakes because he has that eraser, that natural size and power. You know, he could once again be losing all the rounds like he was against Amir Khan and just make up for it with one punch. So, man, I'm telling you guys right now, if this fight goes down, this is hands down one of the biggest fights in the sport of boxing. It would do big, huge numbers, especially after Errol Spence just completely, dominated Mikey Garcia. And you had all the Canelo Alvarez fans, or a lot of Canelo fans, saying, oh, well, I want to see Errol Spence fight against Canelo now. And now here Errol Spence is saying that he wants Canelo after the Sean Porter fight. Let's see what happens after the Sean Porter fight. Let's see if it goes down. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. But before I do, I want to go ahead and shout out Lunatoon Boxing. That's an Instagram page. Matter of fact, this image you guys are looking at on the screen right now is from Lunatoon Boxing. So go ahead and follow him on Instagram. He does some really good boxing artwork. All right, guys, that's all I got for now, and I'm on to the next one.